Sorry. Magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat. Oops. Hang on. Ayan, magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat. Sorry, we started off on the wrong foot. Magandang gabi. Inintay ko po as much as I could. Matapos si Sasa, I understand she's winding down. So, umpisahan na po natin kasi iba sa inyo kanina po nag-iintay. Magandang gabi po. Pag-uusapan po natin yung tungkol nangyari sa Senado na ipinadala po pinalipat po sa City Jail ang isang resource speaker ng Senate Blue Ribbon investigation on the procurement of materials or supplies nitong panahon ng pandemya. Bago po ang lahat, ako po si Trixie Cruz-Angeles. Ito po ang Luminous. Makikiusap po ako sa inyo lahat na huwag po kakalimutan mag-like at mag-share nitong video na ito para, para hindi na po ako paulit-ulit sumasagot doon sa ating Luminous. Para doon sa mga bago po dito sa ating live, meron po kaming page, Luminous by Trixie Cruz-Angeles and Ahmed Paglinawan sa Facebook. At nandun din po kami sa YouTube. You could check us out. And please don't forget to follow sa YouTube and subscribe. Follow on Facebook and subscribe dito sa ating YouTube channel. Oops. All right. Let me just check the comments. Sino bang nandito ngayong araw na ito? All right. Magandang gabi kay Ma'am Irwal, Junaida, Roberto Ocampo, JAT, Meking Cruz, Medwin Maagad, Leo Girl, Duan Paj, Ruby FJ, Bimbo Sagansay, Red Angeles Jr., pangalan mo yung anak ko, The Cooking Dad, Terence Ortiz, Franco, ano ba yan? Elo, Ruby Dalden, Ninita Arago, Melith Miones, Hoy Gising, Betha, Jel Ronquillo, Ivy Simpson, Dio Utok, Kasalinga, Jade Kevin Santos, Kanigin, Melby, Maria Agustin Joseph, John Rios Cayetano, Dominic Benedicto, Rico Kalingo. Magandang gabi. Ito po ang Luminous. Ang nakikita natin na tanong doon sa pinaka-common na tanong ngayon is, can the Senate do that? Can they send Lincoln Ong to City Jail? Hindi pa ba enough na dinetain siya sa Senado and now he is being sent to City Jail. Maraming salamat kay Sir Ruel Costello sa ating super chat. Alright, can the Senate do that? Or may the Senate do that? Is it constitutional? Ganito po kasi yun. Sa ating saligang batas, may power of contempt ang ating Senado in Kongreso, collectively known as the Congress of the Philippines. So, ano itong power of contempt? Well, it is, by its nature, a coercive power of the state. It is not a penalty. Ito ay it is a means. Instrumento ito para i-compel, para mapilitan ang isang tao, one, to attend, two, to be disciplined during the course of the hearing. Okay? Is evasiveness under the power of contempt? Well, the power of contempt compels you to answer. However, nawa-waive ba during a Senate investigation ang karapatan ng isang resource person? Hindi po. Maaaring mag-claim ang resource person ng karapatan niya na wag magsalita dahil baka ma-incriminate niya ang sarili niya. Nandyan yan po sa ating saligang batas. May karapatan po ba siyang umiwas sa Senate hearing? Wala po. Dito na nga po papasok ang contempt powers to compel you to attend. While you can be compelled to attend, you cannot be compelled to speak. So, kahit po sa hukuman, kapag merong isang testigo, maaaring sabihin ng testigo, I refuse to answer on the ground that I may incriminate myself. Maaaring isagot niya sa lahat ng mga tanong niyan. Para nagkakaroon ng, kumbaga, you cannot even pick up the possibility of where this person is afraid to answer. He can use that as an answer to most questions. Kumbaga, reasonably. Therefore, yung paggamit ng contempt, yung pag-detain ng isang resource persons, ito ay para to compel the person to testify. Kasi contemptuous behavior, halimbawa, yung hindi pagsasagot ng isang tanong. So, dinidetain yung tao na yon until such a time as wala na siyang contempt dahil sinasagot na niya yung tanong. In the case of Nick Paildon, ayaw niyang umattend, kino-contempt siya, order of contempt, order of detention, so that he would go to the Senate. Once in the Senate, he refused to answer questions, dinitain siya until such a time as he was willing to answer questions. Pag nilipat sa city jail, ano po yung nature nito? What is the reason for the Senate to transfer a resource person to the city jail? Nang maaari, kung rationable sila, ililipat ang isang resource person sapagkat wala nang lugar doon sa Senado. Wala siyang mapaglagyan, hindi siya mapoprotektahan doon. But does that really happen? Is it possible? Or is it even applicable in this case? Nakikita natin, hindi naman po, parang wala naman pong, hindi naman po umaapaw ang mga detention facilities ng ating Senado, if any. Bakit siya nilipat? Sinabi ni Senator Gordon na nafo-frustrate na daw sila dahil sa evasiveness ni Mr. Ong. But is that a way to compel him? Is that an appropriate response to the refusal to answer a question? Para sa amin, okay, and this is an opinion, I'd like to point out, other lawyers might have other opinions. The nature now, dun sa paglilipat sa kanya dun sa city jail is now in the nature of a penalty. Ayaw mo magsalita, parusahan kita. Not lalagay kita sa city jail because usually it's your detention until you are now compelled to testify. Pero can the Senate hold this person indefinitely? Hindi po, until the end of Congress or until it goes into recess. So since yung paglilipat dun sa city jail might be construed as in the nature of penalty, papasok na po ang Section 1 of the Bill of Rights, which states that no person may be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Since wala pa pong hukuman ang naghatol kay Mr. Lincoln Ong, yung kanyang detention ay without process. I would like to underscore, ito po ay isang opinion because other lawyers might have other opinions. However, we did our research on this one and we think we have strong basis underlying this theory. So ang sinasabi namin dito, nung nililipat siya sa city jail, hindi na po ito compulsion. Kumbaga, oppression na po ito. Lalagay siya sa city jail, why? Pananakot? Isasama siya dun sa ordinaryong mga kriminal who themselves are awaiting trial. Pero dun sa yung mga detention prisoners po in city jail, it means na may probable cause na to hold them. Si Mr. Lincoln Ong, wala pong probable cause na dinetermine ng piskal that says that he probably committed a crime or that a crime has been committed and that probably has been committed at all. So, ulitin ko po the contempt power of the Senate or the Congress ay pursuant dun sa coercive power nila to compel you to attend, to testify, and to be disciplined in the presence of the senators. Iko-contempt ka, ihahawakan ka for contempt until such a time as the behavior that they are expecting of you is complied with. Yung sa paglipat ni Mr. Ong doon sa city jail means that this now becomes a penalty kasi sino yung mga kasama niya doon? Detention prisoners. Ang detention prisoners po, yan po ay mga undergoing litigation o nililitis na po sa mga hukuman. Dahil nililitis na sila, ibig sabihin may dinaanan silang proseso para sila ay ma-detain. At itong proseso na to ay yung determination ng probable cause. Ang probable cause po means that the crime has probably been committed and that person probably committed the crime. In the case of Mr. Ong, no such process has been observed. Nililipat lang siya sa city jail para pahirapan siya. At nagiging ngayon penalty without due process of law. Now, what can the president do, if any? Well, the city jails are manned by people in the executive department. BJMP or ano ba yan? Either BJMP yan or yung sa local governments. But usually it's BJMP. So detention. So ang humahawak dyan, so kunwari ipapadala siya sa city jail or to be detained in a police station, then kailangan ang executive yan. That is the power of the executive. Sila po ang humahawak ng mga detention prisoners. Can the executive, whether it is the PNP or the PJNP, can they refuse to receive a prisoner. Yes, they can on the ground that no due process has been observed. Halimbawa, wala naman po itong probable cause. Ang hinahawakan po namin dito sa detention centers ay mga undergoing trial at nakatapos na po sa detention or nag-iintay po na maharap sila sa piskalya para sa determination of probable cause. Is Mr. Ong being held to determine probable cause? Wala naman pong ganon. Wala po tayong nakikita na pinafile ng Senado na kaso laban sa kanya. Unless they're filing a case for perjury, in which case, dapat nag-file sila for preliminary investigation. Hindi po yan inquestible crime. So madaling sabi, an injustice is being committed here. Is the Senate aware na ganito nga po ang nangyayari? At sino po ang dapat managot kung maaaring ipanagot? While the powers of contempt of the Senate are absolute, maaari bang i-review itong action nila to deliver a resource person to city jail, which is in the nature of a penalty? Maaaring kasuhan ng mga lawyers ang mga miyembro ng Senado dahil nag-exceed na po sila ng kanilang jurisdiction. Right? But this is most likely a civil case, meaning to compel them to stay within the bounds of their jurisdiction at pakawalan si Mr. Ong. On the other hand, actively, on the part of the president, he can order any of the PNP or the BJMTP to refuse to receive Mr. Ong on the ground that no process has been conducted to justify his detention in city jail. Okay. Let me check your questions. Sabi ni Daniel Villamin Ansay, ang lalanan ng mga senators na yan, di ko talaga maisusulat pangalan ng mga yan sa botohan. Well, yeah, I understand that that sentiment. May na-miss po ako kanina na na nagpadala sa ating super chat. Ayun. Sino bang pasensya na po, hindi ko po naabutan yung super chat kanina. Could you just please remind me kung sino po nagpadala ng sa super chat? Salamat po. Ito. Sabi niyo Ma'am Margarita Galitane, bakit anyari dahil matagal na akong di nanood ng latest vlog niya. Okay, nag-uusap na naman kayo. Guys, if you're going to interact with each other, can you please address them by name para hindi ko binabasa yung mga comments niyo? Sayang sa oras eh. Las Palmas says, malignant campaign against truth, fairness, and they believe their own lies. They convince and jerks that suck. Okay. Albert Magno Cawile says, was that not considered illegal detention? Well, it is actually an illegal detention. But because there's no process, di ba? That's why nga pwedeng mag-file ng either criminal case or better yet, to file a habeas corpus case dun sa ating PNP. Ganito lang po yun, no? Wala po ako sa posisyon na bigyan ng abiso yung mga abogado ni Mr. Ong. Meron silang sariling diskarte dyan. And I don't want to second guess what their strategy is. Ang nakikita lang natin dito, ang sinasabi lang natin dito kung ano ang pwede. So, for purposes of dun sa arbitrary detention, maaari po. Pero ang respondent po dyan ay yung mga pulis. So, bakit natin gagawin yun? Diba? So, in all likelihood, the best recourse would be, one of the better recourses would be to file a petition for habeas corpus. Hindi po penal ang nature niyan, hindi po yan criminal. Dahil inadvertently, dahil nga posible na out of courtesy, tinatanggap ng BJMP o ng PNP o kung anumang detention center ang tumanggap dyan, either doing it out of courtesy to the Senate, diba, and to the senators, even if there is no compulsion on their part to accept it. Sabi ni Michael Balida, si Tulfo po nag-declare po na tatakbong VP. Sino kaya ang president niya? Manny kaya? That's the speculation right now. Michael Duran says, pwede po bang i-contest sa Supreme Court? Pwede nga po, sinabi nga po natin yan. Para sa court, not necessarily sa Supreme Court, but they can file, the lawyers can file a petition for habeas corpus or file a case for arbitrary detention. Pero like I said, in both cases, ito po, ang target po niyan will be the PNP or the DJMP or whoever is holding them in detention. So I don't think anybody would want to file a criminal case against the people who are going to be detaining him because it would be most likely out of courtesy to the Senate. Although hindi naman po sa pilitan yon. The detention can also refuse to accept Mr. Ong or tell the Senate that we're sending him back because we have no room here and so on. They can refuse. Okay? Pwede bang i-review ng Supreme Court yan? Yes, pwede din po. To determine kung within the jurisdiction po ba ng Senado, yung sa pilitang pinalilipat si Mr. Ong doon sa City Jail. Maraming salamat kay Arlie Mar sa kanyang super sticker. Judith de Quintinas pareha says, blatant power play ginagawa ng senators if they're doing this to score brownie points from the electorate. They're failing big time. Major turn off yung mga arrogante na nga nang-aapi pa ng private citizens. Well said, madam. Very well said. The Cooking Dad says, abuse of power, manifestation pa lang, badgering the witness na. Resource persons are cooperating. Yung ayaw mag-share ng trade secrets and partners is allowed. May executive session naman, ayaw i-offer. Good point. Also another good point. Emerson says, ayoko po muna ng off-topic. Okay, tapusin muna natin. Sa bagay ng judicial proceedings, dito kawawa si Mr. Ong. Madam Ruth Maria Gran, wala nga pong judicial process. Yun nga po, that's what makes this illegal. Dahil hindi po ito dumaan sa hukuman. Kaya nga, we're saying it is so inherently wrong. Ngayon, ano yung proseso? Not necessarily the judicial. Maaari, dun sa piskal. Mabilis lang po yan kung inquest proceedings. It has been committing a crime. Di maaari siyang ihatid sa piskalya to determine probable cause para ma-detain siya pending his trial or so that he can file for bail. But in this case, it is under the contempt or coercive power of the Senate to compel him to testify. Ano doon ang reason for sending him to the city jail? Diba? That other than gusto lang nilang mapahamak o matakot itong taong to. But that is beyond the scope of their jurisdiction. Now, I would like to tackle that canard, that bit that you keep saying, sa tagal ng. Please, guys, and I keep repeating this, para kanino matagal yan? Sa inyong mga miron, sa ating mga miron, o dun sa akusado? Okay? Kasi ang karapatan to a speedy trial belongs to the accused, hindi sa ating mga miron na nanonood lang. Okay? Bakit kailangan ng akusado ng speedy trial? Kasi lalong-lalo na in criminal cases, they have this big axe hanging over their heads. Gusto nila matapos kagad yung hearing na yon para they are exonerated and they can go back to their lives. So, huwag niyong iisipin na ito sa bagal eh. Parang kayo yung naperwisyo. Kung hindi po kayo kasama sa kaso, hindi po kayo yung napeperwisyo at wala po kayong karapatan magreklamo tungkol sa bagal. Ang magrereklamo po yung akusado. Okay? O kaya yung mga parties to a civil case. Okay? Ngayon, what is a slow judicial process? Yung mabagal para sa inyo, hindi necessarily mabagal para dun sa mga taong naglilitigate. Kasi marami pong factors yan. Halimbawa, yung proseso by itself, yung in a civil case, may complaint, may answer, meron kayong pre-trial to determine the issues and all that. Marami pong paraan para pabilisan yung trial. Pero like I said, mabilis yun para dun sa for most lawyers, mabilis na ito kung sunod-sunod yung mga hearings. Pero para sa inyo, dahil matagal, dahil hindi ninyo na-appreciate yung proseso, nagmumukha pong matagal. Ngayon, hindi po continuous trial in the same sense as continuous trial sa US. Kasi sila parang one case at a time in many courts. O ito, the whole morning, ito lang ang kaso. Or the whole day, ito lang ang kaso. Pag sinabi ng isang abogado, I am in court or I am in trial, kahit nasa labas siya ng courtroom, I am in trial kasi tuloy-tuloy yung hearings na yon. Ang bawat hukuman dito, they handle thousands of cases, so hindi kinakaya yung continuous trial the same way na nagagawa sa ibang bansa. There just aren't enough courts and aren't enough prosecutors and aren't enough lawyers to go around. So most of the time, many people keep complaining without understanding what the process is. Now, there are times when the process is really delayed. Yung talagang delayed, talagang mabagal. Yun ang inirereklamo. Pero yung off the cuff na, sa tagal naman kasi ng pag-litigate dito. Well, yes, we'd like speedy trials also. Pero sometimes it's just not possible. Diba? So I think that it is grossly unfair for people to keep complaining about the slowness of the justice system if you're not aware of how the system works. Hindi ko po alam susulat yung mga senators sa Singapore government. My guess is that they're going to double check evidence. PNP can refuse. I don't know your name. Guys, if you're going to use really strange letters for your names, I'm not going to call you by name. PNP can refuse, but will the PNP or BJMP be held in contempt as well for not accepting Senate requests for jail commitment? We would question the scope of the jurisdiction of the Senate. Can they reach into the executive and compel them for a matter that is not related to the duties of the Senate? Diba? Wala po yan sa ano. That's why the Senate has its own detention area. Diba? Whatever it is that they're going to ask the executive to do, one, there has to either be a law or an agreement, which will be the law between the two parties. What is going to compel the BJMP or the PNP to comply with the Senate? The contempt powers? Really? Kaya bang ng Senado i-contempt yung buong BJMP? Because they can transfer to another jail and another jail and another jail. And everybody who says no, lahat yun, i-contempt nila. I think for practical purposes, that's not likely. Nasa batas ba yung mga rules ng Senate o batas lang yun ng Senado ng Pilipinas? Believe it or not, the Senate has what we call rulemaking power over their own operations, which the Supreme Court very, very rarely would like to interfere with kasi that's a co-equal branch and that is within the scope of their jurisdiction and it's very rare na i-review yan ng Korte Suprema. Out of courtesy to another branch, co-equal branch. Waiting for CHR, sabi ni Neb. Don't hold your breath. May pag-asa ba na tumakbo sa pagka-presidente si Mayor Sara? Preferably, I would like the questions to be on point. Ganito po kasi yon. Hindi ko alam kung ano yung terms ng pag-asa na yan. But ako, when Mayor Sara says she's not going to run because her father is running, the idea, therefore, is that if her father doesn't run, she will run. I don't know how to compute the odds of either one. Anong pwede bang counter kay Dracula Gordon sa pagbubuli niya sa mga businessmen? Believe it or not, nagkumukontra na nga ang presidente, siya na nga yung resback dyan. He keeps raising issue after issue after issue with Senator Gordon. And although hindi pa nakikita ni Senator Gordon the possibility na papailan siya ng kaso, I wouldn't discount it because the president has had enough. Diba? I don't know what's going on in his mind, pero ang nakikita ko is that he has done his homework. And if he knows about these cases, then once he has evaluated the evidence that is available, I'm pretty sure that a case will be filed to end this madness. Diba? Kaya ng lawyers ni Ong yan. Sa situation na to, nalaladlad anong karakter ng mga senators. They are doing this investigation not to ferret out the truth, but for the sake of political propaganda. Yes, I agree with you on that one. Hintayin na natin ang filing of COC October 1 to 8. Malay natin there will be many surprises that will happen. Tiwala tayo sa mind games ni PRRD. Anisita says, kasuhan si Gordon para siya mapreso. Uh, just to follow up to that one, well, it's possible that the best that can be done here is a civil case. I don't know what criminal case can be filed against Senator Gordon. Unless yun nga, it's complicity in the illegal detention. Naila says, kaya lang tinatanggap ng bilangguan si Mr. Ong kahit walang kaso ay dahil takot maipit yung budget nila gaya ng ginagawa ng Senate sa COMELEC na kapag hindi nasunod ang gusto ay walang budget deliberations. Well, yeah, there's that also. Intoy the Jow says, piercing the veil po bang ginagawa ng Senate? No. Piercing the veil is short for piercing the veil of corporate fiction. So I'm not sure which part you're referring to. If you mean that he's making the individual members of the corporation responsible, that's what happens in a criminal case. If it's the corporation that creates a wrong or commits a crime, then the individual officers shall be liable for that. Pero in the case of in corporate cases or in civil cases, piercing the veil of corporate fiction means yung nagtatago yung mga tao behind the corporation kasi yung liability ng corporation ay limitado lang dun sa mga assets nila. Ipipierce yung veil kung ginagamit talaga yung korporasyon para itago yung liability ng individual members, civil liability, not criminal. Oliver Valencia says, kung sakali wala na sa Senado si Gordon, pwede ba siya kasuhan ni Mr. Ong? Pwede naman siyang kasuhan eh. Ang tanong is this covered by the immunity clause? Okay? Sa speech and debate clause, dun sa mga sinasabi niya kay Mr. Ong, possibly covered si Senator Gordon. Pero kung illegal nga yung detention niya, posibleng kasuhan siya even now for a criminal case on that one. Pero magiging co-accused niya yung mga police. And I wouldn't suggest doing that. It's not their fault. What can Mr. Ong do to get back at the senators who put him in this humiliation? Like I said, for the speech and debate laws, meaning yung mga sinasabi ng mga senador at pinapagawa sa kanya in the course of the Senate investigation, covered po ng immunity nila. Pero, if it goes beyond the limits of the Senate's powers, then doon sila pwedeng kasuhan. Rose Santos says, mga bully talaga mga senador na yan, sanay magpa-contempt. Rafael Ramos says, di na ako nanood ng Senate hearing, ilang minuto pa lang sa panonood, hina-high blood na ako kay Gordon. Kumukulo-dugo ko, sumusobra ng abusado masyado. Yes, plus they don't help pagka yung mayabang sila in the, like, really oppressive, parang nang mamaliit at nagmamataas. Halatang stress na si Dick dahil sa mga issues na ito. Noong Philippine Red Cross Annual Financial Report since 2016, Gordon was delinquent. Did he receive 86 million from UPDAF and parked it in Philippine Red Cross, so COA cannot audit it? Anomaly in PRRC according to Rosa Rosal, who is Gwen Pang to Gordon and who is Glenn Tan to Gordon, who is a shelter drug lord cop scalawag to Gordon. Jonas Sarate says, ang pangit po pala maging resource person sa Senate. Pero hanggang ngayon, di pa niya na-explain yung sa audit report or FR ng Red Cross. Makawala pa ba si Vic sa issue ng Red Cross at yung di nila pagbibigay ng FR? Sabi ni Benjamin Pumares, those assholes think they're above the law. No, the other concern that I have about them is that they seem to forget that it is the people that put them into position. At kung magmataas sila, you cannot, alam mo yan, you cannot rise higher than your source. Water cannot rise above its own source, higher than the source. Kumbaga dito, since the power comes from the people, they are senators. They're called honorable senators only because people voted for them, put them in office by the sovereign right of the people. Pero yung kung yung the people ang mismong ino-oppress nila, that's a horrible thing, di ba? Mga nag-iimbestiga may tinatago din, kalokohan, mahirap yan. Sabi ni Ma'am Ruby, kala mo unlimited power nila sa Senate, magkabutuhan lang talaga. Totoo yan. So, yung mga nakikita nyo na mapagmataas sa Senado, huwag kakalimutan yung mga pangalan nila. Yung iba sa kanila ay re-electionist. Patapos na po yung term ni Senator Gordon, Senator Kiko, ganun din. Senator Hontiveros, ganun din, up for re-election din. Senator Villanueva, I understand, also might be up for re-election. So, at tatandaan po natin yung mga pangalan at tatandaan po natin, imarka natin yung mga YouTube videos na ganyan. Kung saan natin nakikita sila na nakikita nagmamataas o nanliliit ng mamaliit naman ng ibang tao. Tandaan po natin yan kasi yung pinaka-power natin ay yung power natin to vote these people into office or consequently to take them out or make sure that they don't come back. Ma'am Milicara Araceli Moser says she's watching from Basel, Switzerland. Paano nila pinapahiya ang tao sa harap ng mundo, live television pa? Nalulungkot ako para sa mga future investors. Thank you, Attorney Trixie. Yes, ma'am. Well, it's not just, yeah, you're right, future investors because ang inaano dito, ang tinatarget nila dito are, as we may have noted, businessmen. Diba sabi ng presidente, yan ang naghahanap buhay nga sila eh. Bakit papasukin niya ng mga negosyante kung wala silang tubo? Dapat sa Senate, puro lawyer na lang para hindi na lang puro contempt. Well, yeah, there's that. But hindi naman, I'm sure kaya naman po ng layman na intindihan yung mga rules at saka powers ng Senado. Legendary says, karamihan sa Senado, sobrang taas na mga tingin sa sarili nila. Yung pinaka-ayoko, yung pagsasabihan ka na how dare you talk that way to a senator? You're in the presence of a senator. Yung mga ganyan. For me, it is terrible because they're public servants and we are the public. Diba? Minsan nga tempted ako buti na lang walang okasyon na gawin yun sa Senado. Madalas po kasi nagte-testify ako sa mga technical working groups, committee hearings, ganyan, as a resource person, but not a resource person katulad ni na Mr. Ong. Like, pag nung dinadraft yung proposed changes dun sa gagawing military code of justice, yung articles of war, andun ako. Nung nire-revise nila yung Dangerous Drugs Act dahil sa sunod-sunod yung mga cases namin involving tanim ng ebidensya, we also testified in the Senate committees. Now, never naman po ako na ganon, to be fair, by many senators, but there are times na sasabihan ka talaga na I am a senator. You address me ganyan as Your Honor or whatever. Yes, Your Honor, or yes, sir. It hasn't happened to me, but I see it done to a lot of other research persons. Astor says, thanks sa lives mo, may kamag-anak ako na muntik na masway nila Gordon. Sabi ko manood ng live mo, ang nanood nga, nalaman na fishing expedition lang talaga ginagawa ni Gordon. NM Kalim, 71 says, sa mga Senate investigation po ba, ay hindi pwedeng i-invoke ng witness ang right against self-incrimination? Pwede po, actually. Pwede niyang i-invoke. Kasi once you invoke it there, that can be used as evidence against you later on in another court. So at any time when you're under oath, you can actually refuse to incriminate yourself. Diba? Ang taas ng tingin ng mga senador sa sarili pagdating sa Senado, daig pa ang hari. Nakalimutan na taong bayan nagpapasahod sa pinipili nila ang alam nila na kayang sindakin. Ma'am Jackie says, nakahabol sa live, pangkape po, let's just wait for karma to work. Di ako nanonood ng hearing sa Senado, tumataas lang BP ko. Ay nako ma'am, alam ko yung feeling talaga ninyo. Kasi I tried for the first few times ngayon, talaga iniintay ko na lang either yung mga sinasabi, yung yung komentaryo o yung mga quotes or ano, and then sometimes I really have to go back. So, umiinit din ulo ko. So, naiintindihan ko po talaga yan ang lubos-lubusan. Maraming salamat kay Ma'am Annie! Long time no hear, Madam Annie. Hindi ko nababasa yung mga comments ninyo minsan sa Facebook. Paano po yan? Na-contempt na si Lincoln on. Pwede na ba siya sumagot right against self-incrimination? Kahit noon pa, pwede niyang isagot yun. Kung ganon, pwede ba mag-double contempt ng same person? Masyado ng abusive ang Senado. Actually, isa lang contempt. Eh, yun na nga. Eh, yung power ng contempt nga is coercive. Para kung i-compel ka to, to do, to, to, to stop the contemptuous behavior. So, kunwari, yung contemptuous behavior ay evasive, ibig sabihin, i-contempt ka para tumigil ka na dun sa evasive answers nyo. O, i-detain ka, o babalik ka dun sa susunod na hearing. O, sasagot ka na ba na maayos? O, dapat nun pa lang, every time na testify si Lincoln, pwede na niya i-claim na, I refuse to answer on the ground that I may incriminate myself. Sa lahat ng mga tanong, I refuse to answer on the ground that I may incriminate myself. Posible, i-detain siya, or penalize siya, whatever, but they cannot compel him to talk. Eh, di magpa-detain siya. Kung detain naman siya nga dun sa, sa city jail, then they can raise that as an issue with the courts. Ching plus says, hanggang kailan siya madidetain? Until matapos ang Congress or until it goes into recess. Di kaya ginawa ni Gordon yan para pumalag si Tatay Diggs, may masisilip na naman si Gordon kay Tatay Diggs. Opo, actually ganito po yon. He's not doing it for the fun of it or just to be oppressive. Ganito po yan. Ang ginagawa niya, pinahihirapan niya itong mga resource persons na ito para sila kasing hostage. So pinapakita niya sa presidente, ganyan, ginaganito mo ako, minamaliit mo ako, o babanatan ko ng babanatan itong mga resource persons. But as if matitinag ang presidente. Sinabi na nga ng presidente, don't care about them. So babanatan naman ng babanatan ng presidente si Senator Gordon. Hindi na masyadong binibira yung mga sitting government officials, although pinapahirapan pa rin kasi patawag daw ng patawag si Senator Gordon. This is according to the president. Tapos pinag-iintay lang. Pahirap din po yun eh. But the president can only publicly defend his own people. Mahihirapan siyang i-defend sina Lincoln and the other resource persons, sina Michael Yang and sina the others, because they're not his people and he's not related to them in any way. However, pwede naman siyang magkomento na sabihin na grabe kayo, paka-oppressive ninyo dito sa mga to, inaapi ninyo. He can comment, pero he cannot rise really to actively defend them kasi nga, gagamitin din yun against the president. Diba? Masabihin, bakit mo dinidefend? Siguro related ka sa kanila, no? Siguro dinidefend mo kasi magkasabwat kayo, and so on. Akala mo pag nagtatanong, ang linis-linis nila. Pero mas masahol pa sila kung meron lang sana nag-umpisa din magkaso sa mga hambog na yan. Is Lincoln detained together with the criminals or is there a special detention room for him? No, he's probably going to be detained with the criminals because there is no special detention room for Senate detainees. Diba? Thank you po kay Ma'am Lilia Papa. Sabi ni James Bong, kung ako ang resource person, magpapakaso na lang ako para sa kote ako magsasalita at walang intimidation. Yun na nga yung sinasabi, di ba, ni Executive Secretary Medel Dea. But kasuhan nyo na lang, Senado, kasuhan nyo na lang. Kasi ang ginagawa ninyo, inaapi nyo lang dyan eh. Kung sa tingin ninyo may krimen, file nyo yung kaso. At least dun sa hukuman, maririnig sila. Which is not what the Senate is doing. Ang gagawin, aapihin nila ng aapihin, pipigain nila ng pipigain, papakita nila dun sa presidente, ikaw, kasalanan mo to eh. Ikaw talaga yung nagpapahamak dito sa mga to. Babanatan namin ang mga ito until one of you admits na may krimen dyan para hindi kami mapahiya. No. Magpapakaso ka nga, pero hindi naman pina-file ng Senado. Kung ako si Ong, magwawala na lang ako dyan sa Senado since madidetain pa rin ako, so better yet, sigawan ko sila. Well, may point ka doon. But I don't think, tinitignan ko si Mr. Ong, hindi ko nakikita sa personality niya, nakakayanin niya yun. Draco Magises, ano po ang magiging recourse ni PRRD pag hindi pa rin magsasabit ng financial report si Dick as required by law? Pwede niyang i-file ng civil case for mandamus. Pwede niyang there's a possibility of a criminal case, pero hindi ko sure kasi medyo vague yung Red Cross law. Nakalagay lang doon yung mga penalties, basta violation ng batas, then it will be subject to those penalties. So hindi ko sure kung yung failure to submit a financial statement would automatically mean that pwede silang, that's a criminal offense. Elmer Legarda says, kung ganyan pala, puro grandstanding lang yung blue ribbon na yan. Sir naman, matagal na natin sinasabi yan. Ang bait-bait nyo. Karen Minyao says, itong maltreatment ba na to is enough ground for impeachment against these senators? The senators are not impeachable officials. And as a matter of fact, it's very difficult to remove them from office, di ba? Through the ethics committee lang po ng Senado. Or, ano pa ba? Wala nga, no? Ethics committee lang sa Senado. Kasi tingnan niyo si Laila de Lima. Nagta-trial na yan, ha? For a heinous crime. Well, what used to be considered a heinous crime, pero anong ginagawa niya? Diba? Senadora pa rin siya. Sabi ni Arles Don Leander, nagtataka lang ako parang sobra yatang powerful ng mga senador natin kumpara sa mga hukuman natin. Hindi naman. Hindi naman. The court can put you away for life. The Senate can only put you away for as long as Congress is in session. Diba? Andy Bautista asks, what do you think? Why the Senate is reluctant to cite Mr. Yang in contempt? Because he's not yet in contemptuous behavior. Ang tingin ko hostage, ganito yun eh. They're probably looking at the most helpless. So, sino dito yung pinaka-helpless? Yan, ikaw, Mr. Ong. Diba? Mr. Ong is being held hostage as against both PRRD and probably Mr. Yang. Salamat kay Tata for your super sticker. Natanong ni Cyclops, absolute ba yung contempt powers ng Senate? Does that mean they are God sa Senate? Can you make your question any more vague? Diba? What do you mean absolute? Basta you're in contempt, pwede kang i-contempt, diba? Basta may contemptuous behavior. So that is the limitation. It's not absolute. Does that mean they're God in the Senate? The same way that a judge is God in his courtroom. So, it can be questioned. They can be questioned. Like I keep telling you, if you were listening before this, they can be questioned in the courts. Pwedeng mag-refuse tumanggap yung executive ng detention prisoners from the Senate. But it's possible. Maganti lang si Gordon kay Presidente tapos nakikisaw-saw si Hontiveros, Dillon at Kiko at mga ibang mga re-electionists. Tandaan na lang natin mga names nila sa eleksyon. Yeah. Yung mga witness na naka-sunglass, hood, distorted voices is valid witness. Para kasing kapag wala ng mukha witness, aligned to their narrative, lagi nagkakaroon ng hooded witnesses. Opo, as long as sa Senado, kilala siya. Sa publiko lang naman po tinatago yan. So, valid pa rin po yan. And hindi po sila exactly witnesses, resource persons. Pwede po bang maging cause ng constitutional crisis pag nakialam ang executive sa decision ng legislative for family execs, etc. Okay, yes, constitutional crisis, yeah. Pag the executive refuses to cooperate, like in this case, pag tumanggi yung lahat ng mga detention centers, no, walang judicial process yan. At pilit dinadala si Lincoln sa mga detention centers, lahat nagre-refuse. Well, it's considered tablet. Ang constitutional crisis kasi stands still. Kumbaga, both sides have equally valid positions at hindi siya ma-resolba, causing all actions to stand still. Yung refusal for the executive to accept Mr. Ong as a detention prisoner, and the Senate will just bring him back to the Senate, detention center. So, meron po kasing recourse pagka ganon. So, I don't know kung paano magkaka-constitutional crisis, but I'm pretty sure that the president sees something coming. Ang tabayanan natin yan. Karen Mata says, avid listener and follower from Iloilo, pa-mention naman please, anak ko si Alixa Leona, nanonood po siya. Hi Alixa Leona, wait. Natatawa ako dun sa consistency ng GMA, ABS, and affiliates sa pagpo-post against sa Marcos ng Never Again at pagkadiktador sa ginagawa sa ginagawa ni dikta naman sila ng dikta. O nga naman. Okay. May nagtatanong kanina tungkol dun sa post ni PP on, sino ba yan? Primitivo Mijares. What did you want to comment? Pakiulit na lang yung question ninyo. Kasi kanina out of topic. Ngayon, pwede na tayong Ma'am Garcia is watching from Toronto. Sabi ni, don't know your name, kung wala naman talagang anomalya na nangyari, bakit ni isa sa member sa Blue Ribbon Committee walang gustong ipatigil ang hearing, terminate na nila at proceed to the next hearing? Ibig sabihin ba takot sila kay Dick Gordon? It isn't a matter of takot so much as they're enjoying their moment in the limelight, diba? Bakit nila patitigilin? It's a show. Diktador daw si Duterte, pero ngayon kita na natin kung sino ang diktador. Bakit tahimik si Senator Bato sa hearing at di yata pinagtatanggol man ng si President Duterte? I don't know, diskarte po niya yon. Alam ko na susunod, aabangan na natin ang mga fake na testigo na ihaharap ng mga dilawan. History repeats itself na naman sa style revealing yan. Ito, sabi ni Ricardo, dapat mag-inhibit si Lacson sa investigation. Ala siya credibility because of escaping when Bobby the Cell case was filed. Hindi ba ito sampal sa hudikatura at executive? Inako na ng Senado ang pagiging police, prosecutor, and judge. Ano ba dapat manaig? Ang rights against self-incrimination o ang contempt powers ng Senate? Hindi naman po magkasalungat yun. Dapat natanggalhin ito ni Mr. Ong sa Supreme Court. Paano kung ordinaryong tao maging resource person, gaganyanin din nila? Yeah, but diskarte yan ni Mr. Ong tsaka ng mga lawyers niya. Babati naman, watching from Jeddah, si Ma'am Alicia Tapel Magno. Kasama daw niya si Ma'am Lydia Hava. Magandang gabi po. Natatong ni Jade Kevin Santos, is it fair for Senator Amy na banatan din siya dahil sa pagkampi niya kay Gordon, kayong alam nating tatakbo si BBM sa higher position? What do you mean, is it fair? What is wrong with, well, I don't know about banatan. Pero if it's done in the public sphere, any action done in the public sphere is ripe for comment. So pagkukomentuhan naman po talaga siya dahil mayroon siyang ginagawa, especially one that surprises people. Diba? Kaya nga may freedom of speech. Ang tanong is kung yung komento nila ay fair ba or within the, kumbaga, o low blow na yon. I haven't seen the comments. People, nakikita ko pa lang is that people are surprised that Senator Amy seems to be joining Senator Gordon. I don't see any sense being in the limelight tapos nagmumukha naman silang tanga, sabi ni Ma'am Vitas. Jose Verasas, kung pwede lang, katon mga senador na kupal sumbaganay. Tira lang ng tira sa presidente, wala namang napatunayan mga kingkoy ng Senado. Okay, Gako says, yung about nga kay Primitivo Mijares, sa sinulat niya about Marcos, siya pala itong nangulimbat ng pera ng Pilipinas para ipasugal sa US. Ano po yung gusto ninyong ikomento ko? 'Di ba? Uh, the comment can be on the on the fact that most historians seem to forget that part. They just cite the part that supports their narrative. So, yeah, naiintindihan ko din po yun. And I don't understand what the comment should be about. Yes, I agree with Titi. Nakapagtanong na nga si Senator Bato at naipakita na po doon na wala talagang overpricing kaya wala na talaga magawa si Bato. Pwede siyang mag-object as of course, ang chairman ng Blue Ribbon Committee is Senator Gordon. So, if there's a motion on the part of Senator Bato, the entire committee has to vote. Pero malaki pa rin yung say ni Senator Gordon sa committee niya. Nakakahiya dun sa resource person from Singapore, nakikita kung gaano kagago ang ibang mga senador, lalo na si Dick na puro grandstanding. Ito, Bike and Nature Lover says, anong tingin mo sa sinabi ni Rafi Tulfo? I think that he's incorrect. Dun sa kanyang assessment na tatalunin ng 40 million subscribers niya yung 16 million na bumoto sa presidente. Because I think that there's a lot of overlap there. One. So, and I think the referral to 40 million subscribers refers to ABS-CBN or the network subscribers. Not sure if it is yes. Thank you kay Luri Bitana for your super chat. Bakit nagmamadali ang COMELEC na isara agad ang voters registration? May kinalaman kaya sa Smartmatic? Baka magamit ang auto-activate accounts? No. Ako, good faith muna is to accept that the COMELEC can do it only up to this time kasi after that, they'll start preparing for the filing of certificates of candidacies. Tapos na yan, yung gagawin na nila yung balota. Yun talaga yung madugo, yung gawaan ng balota. So, I don't see yet any evidence to say na mali yung ginagawa ng COMELEC samantalang matagal na pong in-announce yun, registration of voters. Any points on how to assess good VP candidates over classic papos? I think that good VP candidates should know what the law is. One. Number two, susundan ba natin yung style Lenny na pandering, di ba? Kung ano yung magandang issue, sasakyan yung issue na yon kahit wala siyang kaalam-alam doon. Tapos ang hilig sa handouts, bigay ng bigay. Well, nagbibigay siya to small groups. Nothing wrong per se dun sa mga bigay ng bigay. Pero a lot of that bigay-bigay, those bigay-bigay projects duplicate the functions that are already being conducted by the DSWD or other agencies of government. So para sa akin, one of the standards is that he or she should not be Lenny or Lenny-like. Diba? And two, I want programs, diba? Unang-una, hindi lahat ng vice president ay nabibigyan ng trabaho ng presidente. Kung hindi miyembro ng gabinete, yung vice president, tatanungin talaga natin, anong gagawin mo? Pag sinabi lang magagawa ng projects and this and that, para sa akin, warning sign na rin yun. Para sa akin, dapat ang inaasam talaga ng isang vice president ay ma-appoint into the executive anything na magagawa dun sa executive. Diba? Hindi yung mag-project ka katulad ni Lenny when you're actually just duplicating the functions of government and you appear to be in campaign mode the whole time. Dahil ikaw, namimigay ka, pupunta ka sa mahihirap. You're just filling up your time. That's not your job. Hostage sila para mapahiya si Pangulo. Di ba mas better na ang Marcos Duterte ang President, Vice President, kaysa pagsabungin sila yung mga supporters kasi ang mga may problema. I have no objection to a Marcos Duterte run. But I don't even know if that's going to happen. Kasi sa totoo lang, dahil one, magulo PDP laban, two, ang condition ni Sara is something that is within grasp. It can be met. Diba? Hindi lang tatakbong presidente, pwede presidente as vice president, pwede nang tumakbo si Madam Sara. Diba? Para sa akin, useless to speculate in on which is better, which is not, ganyan. The same way that it's useless na mag-away yung Marcos supporters at Duterte supporters until the final lineup is made. So, it works both ways. So nga na lang naniniwala na may expiration date ang mga face shields, gayong alam nating lahat na non-biodegradable ang plastics. That's a fair point, diba? Ma'am Risa Izagunde says, ginagawa na lang ni Gordon as asal niya para maitago ang kabulukan niya. Thank you kay Luni Bitana, na pasalamatan ko na yata. Concerning Primitivo Mijares, can you please enlighten me about his son's death? Was his son an activist? His son's death is being linked to martial law killings. Listening from Toronto, Canada. His son was 15. He was not an activist. The theory is that he was taken allegedly by state forces. I say allegedly because I don't know if they actually filed the case. His body was found with evidence of really terrible tortures. His eyes were removed, if I'm not mistaken. Basta the torture was really bad. And he was 15 years old. Yeah, so that's what made the case so sensational. That's why Mijares seemed to be really important because his son suffered a lot. So I don't know kung yung mga kasamaan, alleged kasamaan na sinasabing ginawa ni Mr. Primitivo Mijares would still justify the torture of his son. Diba? Kasi yun ang talagang inaano natin. Yun ang binabalanse natin doon. A lot of people were very angry kasi nga, supposedly, yung pagkamatay ng anak niya ay directly related dun sa mga sinulat niya. Now, whether his motivations were pure or not, ang issue dito, yung pagkapatay dun sa kanyang anak. So, I think para sa akin, it's pointless to fight that war. That we accept the importance of what Mijares said, but taking into consideration the fact that he was saying it out of spite. Okay, may dimension na ganon, may spite. Pero, no matter how terrible his writings are, the son's killing, and at such a young age, barely, 15 years old? Di pa yan kasali sa usapan eh. So, yun po yun. I think we just need to, it just gives a new dimension to Mr. Mijares, but the death of his son, that's something that we also still have to keep looking at. And we have to look at it long and hard. That's why, hindi pwedeng black and white yung tingin natin sa kasaysayan. Yun yung lesson dyan. The answers are rarely so clean-cut. Is Mr. Mijares a villain? Maybe. Maybe he paid for it because his son paid for it. I mean, how do you live with that? On the other hand, does it, no matter how horrible the things that he wrote and whether they were true or not, does that justify a killing? And nobody contests that it was a state-ordered killing at the time, allegedly, kasi it was allegedly picked up by the cops, diba? Anong tingin nyo sa PDP laban kasi nag-announce na si Pacquiao na tatakbong presidente? Paano siya sina PRRD? I don't understand what the confusion is about. The presumption is that valid yung panig ng presidente. And just because nag-declare si Senator Pacquiao through the alleged Coco wing, kasi right now there are no wings, okay? Hindi to, there are no wings. The presumption is that the CUSI, the party is led by the President and Secretary CUSI. Right? Yung kabila, yung kina Senator Coco, they are intruding, kumbaga. So, in the light of the presumption, yung declaration ni Senator Manny doesn't really amount to very much unless it is recognized na later on by the COMELEC. But right now, naka-file na po yung nakasubmit na po ang PDP Laban, yung slate ng PDP Laban with the COMELEC. And therefore, they enjoy the presumption right now habang hindi pa po nagpa-file si Senator Pacquiao. Merong mga nagsasabi, paano yun? Presidente si Pacquiao, Vice si Duterte. Hindi po, kasi yung actions ng panig ni Senator Pacquiao do not enjoy the presumption of regularity or the presumption na sila yung partido. So, hindi po considered candidate pa ng PDP Laban or at least ng malaking faction ang PDP Laban. Magkakaroon na ng wing-wing na ganyan kapag yung issue ay nakaharap na sa COMELEC. Sa ngayon, wala pa po yung issue doon. Nagbabangayan pa lang silang dalawa na grupo. And right now, it's still considered a single party. So, di ba? Pag ni-recognize yung Kusi Wing, then tapos yung candidacy ni Senator Pacquiao under PDP Laban. Mark Kelson says, I always enjoy listening to all your topics. Thank you po. Sabi ni Rain, since attorney likes to talk of heritage, sana maliwanagan yung mga dalahira about Pasig River Expressway not passing Intramuros like the bridge made in China. Binabati ko yung pinakamagandang bukada ni Trixie. Ano yung gusto niyo i-comment dyan? Napag-usapan na po kasi sa Karambola na yung Pasig Riverway, Pasig River Expressway po is not on top of the river but towards the side. Tapos parallel to the river. At hindi nga po sa loob ng Intramuros ito. Yung Pinondo Bridge, tama ba yun? Pinondo, the bridge that crosses towards the Intramuros ay kinlear po ng Intramuros Administration. And although we raised the issue na bahagi yan ng buffer zone ng World Heritage Site of San Agustin Church, hindi naman po gumalaw yung mga ahensya ng gobyerno tulad ng NCCA at ng National Museum. So in the absence of their formal objection to that, wala akong nakikitang problema with the bridge. Wala pa bang resulta yung pag-file ni QC sa PDP Laban? Anong i-file po? Ang final po ay yung candidacies ni Senator Go at saka ni PRRD at yung kanilang Senate slate. Nick says, Sir Rafi was referring to ABS-CBN subscribers. Actually, may karugtong yung mga sinabi. Kinort niya yung 40 million, sabi niya, 36 million lang pala at kung nakabayad na daw ang ABS-CBN, baka di pa daw paraw ibalik. Okay. Sa ginagawa ng Senado, especially kay Gordon sa family, na pinadetain nila at hindi pa nakontento pinakulong kasama sa mga kriminal, dapat lang ba may paglabag sa batas ang ginagawa ng Senado o lahat, lalo na mga promotor nito? Dapat bang kasuhan yung mga senador na may pakananan? Actually, sinagot na po natin yan and ang sabi ko, maaari. Pero ang magrereklamo nga ay yung panig ni Mr. Ong. Di ba yung Sergeant at Arms ng Senate, dapat yung Commander-in-Chief nila ay yung Presidente rin. If that is the case, hindi po. Ang Sergeant at Arms ay dun sa legislative branch, hindi po dun sa Presidente. He serves the Senate. Kayo lang nagsasabong ng BBM Marcos pero di nyo na naisip sa sinasabi ni PRRD na di siya marunong maningil ng utang na loob. So, ibig sabihin di niya type ang Marcos kasi nga walang utang na loob. Okay. Is the KBL nomination legit? Di naman kasi member si BBM ng KBL. Yeah, of course, a party can nominate a guest candidate. Pwede naman po yun. Ang tanong is kung tinanggap na po ni Senator Marcos. Kasi syempre, dapat ang mauuna yung kanyang partido and he belongs, I understand, he is nationalista. Diba? Tama ba yun? Nationalista? MP ba? Pag hindi nagkasundo at nag-unite ang mga DDS, teka, sino may sabing hindi united? Uh, that's fake, ha? That's fake. Hindi ako, if you will look at the popularity rating of the president at 75%, still light years away from his nearest opponent, makikita ninyo na pare-pareho pa rin tayo nagsusuporta sa gobyerno. Ngayon, may mga ilan na nag-create ng dissent at nagsasabi na, ganyan nga, pinapa-head-on na ba ngayon si BBM versus Duterte or the admin and all that. Please also understand that si BBM is different from Senator Aimee. Now, if Senator Aimee has remarks against the Duterte administration, huwag niyong i-apply yan kay BBM because those are two separate people. Senator Aimee is not running for president. And for me, di ba, if she's doing her job as a senator, di sige, opinion mo yan. I don't necessarily agree with you on that one, di ba? So, I don't understand. Ganito yan ha? We really have to stop saying na nag-aaway ang BBM at saka BBM loyalists at saka DDS. Kasi tingin ko there's only one group and it's DDS. And well, of course, all others na sa labas. Yung mga ganyan is creating the impression of division so that some people will actually think that they are divided na at magkatiwalagan na. And that causes division sa atin. Pag divided tayo, kiss all ambitions that of continuity happening. Diba? Yun yung strategy ng kabila eh. Bakit nyo tinutulungan yung dilaw? Bakit kayo nag-i-insist na merong rift? Walang rift. But if you're seeing a dissension or yung nag-aaway-away, then our job is to clarify the matters para hindi nagkakaaway-away. And ako, I disagree that umaabot na siya. It's not even at the point where any of us should be concerned. Just that we should point it out so hindi siya lumala. Pero para sabihin ninyo that there is a rift that's serious enough, hindi, wala yan. And if you keep saying that, then ang tingin ko dyan is you're doing the job of the yellows. Sabi ni Marisol Gloriani, yes po, may nanggugulo lang. If ever manalo si BBM as president at during canvassing, hinaharang halimbawa nila Kiko at alam gusto ko lang marinig na isang malutong na noted. Yep, what goes around comes around. Okay, recap tayo. Yung pag turnover o yung sinasabi ni pinadetain sa city jail ni Senator Gordon, head ng Blue Ribbon Committee, ang isang resource person can be questioned on several grounds. Pwedeng mag-file ng habeas corpus yung kanyang mga lawyers, pwedeng questionin sa Korte Suprema kung ganyan ba, umaabot pa sa ganyan ang jurisdiction ng Senado to cite the person in contempt. Or kung pwedeng i-dissolve yung kanyang order because it is in the nature of a penalty, kaya nililipat siya doon sa city jail. Now, to clarify again, the power of the Senate to issue an order of contempt. And this is the part where I have to warn you, this is opinion, partly based, partly opinion, but opinion that is educated and based on several cases. All right. The power of contempt is coercive in nature. May power talaga ang contempt ang Senado, and in the same way, some administrative agencies under the executive also have the power of contempt because it is coercive in nature. To coerce the party, the person they are summoning to come to the hearing in the Senate or in the House, to be disciplined within the confines of the Senate, and to testify. Diba? But there's no law in the world that can compel a person to speak. So in order to bolster their coercive nature, finding the person, detaining him or her for contempt is a form of making that person talk. Now, limited po yung power ng contempt. A person can be detained for contempt only for so long as Congress is in session or until Congress goes into recess. Pag natapos na yung, let's say, 18th Congress, wala na rin, hindi na i-detain, papakawalan na yung tao. Pag nag-recess ang Senado, papakawalan na ulit yung tao. Okay? So, hindi po indefinite yan. Ngayon, pag tina-transfer sa city jail, this brings to mind the question of whether or not this is in the nature of a penalty. Ayaw mo magsalita o parusahan na lang kita, lagay kita sa city jail. Now, the city jail is a detention center. At detention center yan, for prisoners who are waiting to go into inquest proceedings to determine probable cause, or dinidetain sila dahil naghihiring sila and probable cause has been determined already. Either way, may proseso na sinunod para ma-detain ka dun sa city jail or dun sa other detention centers. Okay? So, ito yung basis para pwedeng mag-question yung mga abogado ni Mr. Ong sa hukuman tungkol dito sa order ni na Senator Gordon. On our part, we think that they are overreaching. They have gone beyond the scope of their jurisdiction. Can the executive, meaning the PNP or the detention centers, like the custodians of the detention centers, such as the BJMP, can they refuse to take Mr. Ong? Or can they, consequently, upon realizing that no process has ever been served on Mr. Ong, can they return Mr. Ong to the Senate? Yes, they can actually do that. Now, he might be bounced around, and that might be some kind of crisis, but it's perfectly legal to do so. Doon sa we also noted that when people say that mabagal ang proseso sa hudikatura, kailangan nilalagay natin ito sa konteksto. Ang kabagalan na po yan ay na may aaring ireklamo lang po nung tao na nasasakdal. Dahil sila po ang may karapatan to a speedy trial. Ang publiko po walang karapatan mag-demand ng ganon. Ano po yung mga factors kung bakit sa tingin ng mga tao ay bumabagal? Una, posibleng hindi naiintindihan ng proseso. Pangalawa, posibleng ang dami-daming hawak na kaso ng hukuman. So, nahihirapan sa pagkakalendaryo ng mga kaso. Pangatlo, we also take into consideration yung mga deliberately na sinaslow down. Yun po ang magiging maaari nating ireklamo na masyadong mabagal. Ano pa yung ibang pinag-usapan natin? Tungkol naman doon sa sinasabi ninyong post ni TP kay Primitivo Mijares, kailangan binibigyan lang tayo ng konteksto doon sa pagtitingin natin sa ating kasaysayan. Ibig sabihin, maraming dimensions, hindi ganun kadali mag-judge o gumawa ng conclusion. At nakikita natin na marami doon sa mga nagsusulat ng kasaysayan ay nag-i-include lang ng mga facts na nagsusuporta ng kanilang teorya o ng kanilang thesis or ng kanilang narrative. Now, in the case of Mr. Mijares, ang lumilitaw ay yung supposedly kaya siya pinagalitan o kaya siya pinag-iinitan ng Marcos administration ay dahil inestafa niya yung gobyerno or minalverse niya. He supposedly spent about $50,000 of the government's money and gambled it away. And nung pinapatawag na siya, he wrote a tell-all para pahiyain yung gobyerno and so that he could seek asylum in the United States and claim persecution. Unfortunately, nag-backfire ito sa kanya in the sense that supposedly state forces picked up his son, tortured the son, and eventually killed him. I think both of them were detained, pero yung anak niya yung pinatay. In the light of everything, nabibigyan ng konteksto yung character ni Mr. Mijares at kung ano yung mga motivations niya for writing, which means that we can question, in fact, some of the things that he wrote or the fact that he wrote it out of spite. But bahagi din ng konteksto na yan, yung krimen that was perpetrated against his son. Something also that should give us a sobering look at this part of our history. No judgments, which is more than what the other side does. On the other side, si Mr. Mijares lang ang tama, pure yung intentions niya and the state is the big bad villain. But here, in this narrative that has more dimensions to it, then we see it's not that easy to judge either side. It's still wrong to kill people, though, no matter how you're going to look at it. Particularly in this case, it was a 15-year-old boy. But who does the blame fall here? I think it's shared as well, um, on many sides, diba? But in the end, whoever killed the young Mijares is liable and responsible for that. Okay? Kung wala na pong ibang mga tanong, checking ko, when I check yung mga last few mga ba, nabasa ko post ni Mr. Bobby Tiglao na si Yorme may CCTV na gambling. Well, that, I don't think that's actually a secret kasi nga, merong time na nahuli siya, supposedly, for illegal gambling. I think that has been dismissed. Pero, you're right. Gambling is an issue in elections. Di ba ganun din ang nangyari? Somebody threw to the public supposedly a CCTV of then candidate Erap Estrada gambling in a casino. Eventually, even that person disappeared. So, how does this affect the elections? Well, it goes into the character of Mr. Moreno, and it becomes part of the national conversation. We're going to be using that to judge whether or not he is fit to be president. Diba? Dennis Gabaca says, validate may Facebook kung dilawan ako. Huwag naman kayo mag-away ng ganyan. Afuro Wang says, sana tumahimik na lang si, ano yan, Eme, bahayaan na lang ni Eme. Okay, I really don't understand some of the things you're saying here. Alright, last two. Peter Pan TV says, hi po, watching from Alcasi in KSA, celebrating the 91st Saidi National Day. Nora Pablo Durias is watching from my ward in Vienna City General Hospital, AKH, Austria. Gandang gabi. Wow, ganda din sa inyo, di ba? And sabi ni, and this is a good way to end this, sabi ni Lalan Bechaida, attorney, it was only a brief lapse of judgment, emphasis on brief. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Para dun sa hindi pa po nag-share, don't forget to like and share. Para dun sa hindi pa po nag-follow sa Facebook, please don't forget to follow. Para dun sa mga naka-follow, don't forget to check kung naka-follow pa rin kayo sa Facebook. And para dun sa hindi pa po nag-subscribe sa ating YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe. Check natin kung may Sutil Sunday tayo tomorrow. I'm not sure if I can promise anything, but we certainly will try. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Everybody, have a good weekend.